Hello.
Hello, how are you doing? Good evening. Welcome out to our Wednesday evening service and our ability to connect with one another. I reach out and I touch you, and I pray that we're able to find you in good spirits. I welcome you, and so does Jill. You welcome Jill?
Yes, I do. Hello, people.
This message that the content of these work messages that we've done in the last 3.5 to 4 weeks have been very demonstrative in my life. A lot of times you teach, but sometimes you have to teach what you know. And you don't realize what you know sometimes until you fully attempt to teach it.
And can I just say this, just that came to mind when you said this, so you'll understand how important it is to hear somebody say to teach what you know. See, the best thing that you can give somebody is the truth established because of your witness.
Right.
If I'm talking about what I don't know, there's some pieces I'm not going to have. You know, you don't have to have your heart broken by if you're a woman by a man to know heartbreak, and vice versa. But when you do know heartbreak, however heartbreak came to you, that's why Jesus could be in the story. You know, Jesus could be in the Bible. How so many things to us are merciful. A high priest, a merciful high priest. Why is that? Because he took on his flesh. And he didn't have to experience the same physical things. But when you know it's spiritual, when you know what loss is, people come to loss for different ways.
Mm-hmm.
When but the feeling is the same. I just read something a minute ago, then I'm gonna turn it back over, that this just hit. And he was just talking about the tree of good and evil. Listen, you know the authors say they had their roots in the same soil. You don't know about that?
Mm-hmm.
That the tree of good and evil, the one that we talk about, they have their roots in the same soil. And so if we really think about those, where we are when our energy is good, when our energy isn't good, oftentimes it has its roots in the same soil. And I believe we're going to get there. What's that soil? Love. Anytime you dare to love, anytime you dare to care, you're going to have that action and reaction, that cause and effect. Anytime you dare to love and to open yourself and be vulnerable, you're going to have an episode or an experience with the other side of that coin.
I made a statement, and it's becoming more and more effective even to myself when you say practice what you preach. And that is, in order to deal with my anxiety level, my stress levels, and just the different things, especially when you're doing something that you have not been given a thorough training, because you have to learn on the job. I began to worry, and I had to become established on what worry was. And I had to know I could no longer talk about worry and anxiety. And so what I say that because the first slide, number 1, deals with worry and it deals with love. We can bring up that slide, worry 1. It says, I should never have my mind troubled by anxiety and worry. If I live in the consciousness of love God has for me, the Spirit tells us plainly, do not worry. And so there was a point in my life in 2014, where there were a lot of things that was popping off, and I didn't know what I was coming or going. And I had to make a decision that I will not allow my mind to be troubled by the anxious energy of anxiety, the energy of worry, and I will live in a consciousness of love of God has for me. And the Spirit says, don't worry. And so I had to make I'm just going to give you actual action items in between these things, these emotional upswings and downswings we go through. And I had to make a decision that he loves me. And I had to see how much love God has shown me thus far in my life and live off of that. And it says, do not be anxious or worried about anything, but in everything, every circumstance and situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, continue to make your specific requests known to God. I was never taught this. I don't think many of us were ever taught. Part of being a part of worrying is making your petition, your prayer, and your petition and thanksgiving to continue to make your specific requests known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will surpass. Talk to me.
You know, I think definitely this is not a new scripture, and I think it came past our way, except when people use this scripture all the time, it wasn't about worry. It was about making your petition, your request known to God. It was about getting something, you know. And I remember someone telling me, you know, using the scripture when I was, just before I met you, and I was in a church with some people who I felt was holy rollers. And this is what she said. You know, you wanted a car, I needed a car, but you wanted a car. You didn't make your request specific. See, I didn't ask for a red one. Well, what's the truth? That didn't come from worry. That came from naming and claiming. So I did get this, but very few times that I heard it was anyone talking about worry in a situation like this, or similar to a situation like we're in today with this pandemic and where the world is, the violence, the looting, the good side of the protest, the violent side of the protest. I mean, just so many things that, as you just said, the emotional upswing, you know, that is happening right now. But that's what I believe, that you heard it, but people start telling you to pray and petition and do this in terms of want, and it wasn't so much in context with this scripture.
Right. And if we can go to Philippians 4:6, I'd like to get through verse 7, if we can get to Philippians 4:6, and I cut it off.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Then you need to keep talking about it.
And the peace of God, which I know that's what it is, but I just want to make sure.
Okay. We'll start from the beginning again and buy me some time.
Do not be anxious or worried about anything, but in everything, every circumstance, situations, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, continue to make specific requests known to God for the peace of God, which, that's where I'm.
Okay, here we go. I have it in my machine stop. It's so similar to my touch. Here it is. And the peace of God, that peace which reassures the heart, that peace which transcends all understanding, that peace which stands guard over your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus is yours.
Read that again. That's phenomenal. Read that again.
Okay. It says, I'll start at 7 again. Let me see. Here we go. And the peace of God, that peace, this is in brackets, that peace which reassures the heart, that peace which transcends all understanding, that peace which stands guard over your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus is yours.
That's it. And that peace is what we all need right now. What we all need, and we need that all of our life, that peace. And with that, it said, if you want that type of peace, you're going to have to pray and petition your Creator with thanksgiving in advance. You have to thank God in advance. For the last few nights or so, or a few days, I've had a couple of things that would want to take my mind to a different place. But I had to thank God in advance for giving me that peace of mind, which was going to surpass all understanding. You got something?
And like I said, I won't go to a day, but we have to know that what these people were going through during this time, and what was being talked about. Sometimes, Ron, even as today, we have to recapture some of these scriptures. Like, for instance, if I went to, we read Philippians 4, and I'm going to start with 1. And it starts with this, therefore. That means you have to go to chapter 3 to really get the gist of why this was a certain way. But then it says, my fellow believers who I love and long for, my delight and crown, my wreath of victory. In this way, stand firm in the Lord, my beloved. So in this way, you will see it if you go up. But listen, I just want you to hear what was going on. So I urge, I might be pronouncing this wrong, okay? I urge Euodia and I urge somebody, anyway, to agree and to work in harmony. So what was this really about? 2 people not getting along? 2 people at odds with each other? And he says, I urge these people to walk in harmony in the Lord. Indeed, I ask you too, as in TOO also, my true companion, to help these women to keep on cooperating. This is what this is really about. This ain't about naming and claiming. This is about relationship. This is about being one. This with the Lord. This is about not becoming stumbling blocks to each other. This is about not letting the darkness come in. This is about each person examining themselves so that we will not be a hindrance to each other and prevent us from finishing and doing the Lord's work, because we are now exhausted by somebody else's energy. Then it says to help these women to keep on cooperating, for they have shared my struggle in the cause of the gospel, together with Clement and the rest of my workers whose names are in the book of life. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. So that was before it. So I just want you to get a bit of the context of what Paul was talking about for all of you all who've gone through the class with me with how to study. And that's coming again too, but it's going to be part 2. But what do we know? This is a letter. So this is Paul writing a letter to a particular church. So there was something going on. And sometimes you don't get to know what's going on. And then sometimes you do get to know what's going on, because he would tell you, these people are not cooperating. Mm-hmm. And guess what what he's saying about that? That causes stress. So he started talking about stress. When 2 people were split, listen, this is why Jesus to me could say, Peter, you didn't have the things of God in mind, you had the things of man in mind, and not of God in mind. And because you had the things of man in mind and not the things of God in mind, you are an obstacle to my path. You are an adversary. So he used the word Satan, which means adversary. So what do we say here? We become adversarial to one another, and we impede the progress of this big picture of each of us cooperating first and foremost with the spirit of truth. If you cooperate with the spirit of truth, if you do your work that you have to do, then guess what? Your stress will not be something that's so big in the space that we can't handle it together.
Mm-hmm. I was just going back and rereading that scripture again. It's pretty good that says that peace, and I just didn't know that it said anything about harmony. Well, if we go to slide number 2, one of the things that you're going to have to do is you have to go from limiting beliefs to benefiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. Limiting beliefs to benefiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. And when I say limiting beliefs, I had to get rid of this mindset of lack, this mindset of not having, this mindset of being completely without, this mindset of being broke. And I had to get rid of that. And when you go from that, it says on my slide, it says chronic, unrecognized anger and resentment often reemerges in our life as depression. Let's bring it back here. And so it says that if you have chronic, unrecognized anger and resentment, it's going to reemerge in your life as depression. Mm-hmm. And so you may have been a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, mm-hmm. a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, whatever old you were, and you ended up in a situation where You had to just go along with the adult process. But the adult process was not fair to you. It caused disharmony within yourself. But you had to learn how to survive. And so you must know, it says that unrecognized, and then once you get older, once that becomes unrecognizable, you have an angry disposition. You have a suspicious disposition. You have a non-trusting disposition. You have a depressive disposition. Why? We are all physically connected, and we must choose to know. The internal position we hold about another person is forcing them to adopt a complementary defensive position. And if you had brought that thing back, I would explain, when I explain a complementary defensive position, is if I stay on the attack, if I stay on the control, if I stay on the manipulating part, if I stay on the trying to get you to push past your anger, but not helping you deal with your anger, then what is going to happen is that I'm going to end up forcing the person that I'm in relationship with, Jill, to adapt a submissive position to what it is that I'm doing or saying, even if it's out of whack and out of position with God.
You know, when you were saying this, the thing that went through my mind is to say, listen, you want to be excellent in your way of impacting this world. Do not, you know, when your kids don't stop taking things so personal. Help your kids, help whoever, if they're kids physically young, if they are young in the spirit, and you see that they are angry, stop being afraid to go on in and say, hey, listen, I feel that you may be a little bothered. Stop being afraid of that conversation. That conversation, I'm telling you, you will give those people who some adversarial spirit from ancient, from a long time ago that has a hold on them, you will give them permission to be angry.
Right.
And sin not. But lots of people, you know, unfortunately, parents will say, listen, I'm the only one paying bills in here, you don't work nowhere, you don't have the right to be angry. Then you have these people that grow up and they're angry, is anger and resentment. I'm telling you, I see it all the time. I've dealt with so many people. I can tell that's you're still bothered. You're bothered because someone controls you. And then when you come in an environment where someone is trying to show the kind of order, not the kind of OCD order, okay, the order that still have enough, is still malleable and flexible enough to flow, okay? Listen, then somebody comes in your space with some kind of order and you think it's control.
In other words, authority is authority is authority. And if I had the tone of authority, which was the same tone of authority that your dad may have had, or your uncle, or your upset brother may have had, then what happens is I end up triggering inside of you some old emotions and some other things that are happening, but there was no intention for me to do that.
Absolutely. And what happens is that's why you say recognize. If you don't recognize your anger, if you don't recognize the true root of it, then anytime, any situation that touches that space or causes you to, you use the word trigger to feel that, then guess what? It's going to be put in the category and it'll never be good. Versus the trigger that gets you to pay attention to some old, what I'm gonna call unfinished business, so that you can resolve and confront some things that haven't been confronted.
Right.
But like I said, I hope and pray that on this day and before, if you don't get it and you need some help, go online to Amazon.com and order e-copy of From the Hood to Heart. It was $9.99. I'm telling you, it's going to bless your life because it's going to tell you how to deal with children, but it'll also tell you how to deal with the child in you that you didn't have an opportunity to be because you had these controlling parents. You know, it'll let you see well, the freedom you probably desire, but didn't know how to express yourself and tell somebody these things. And then before you know it, you got all locked up and all bound up. And now the world is missing your gift or missing your smile.
Right.
Or missing your touch.
Right.
Which is unfair to the whole world who needs you.
I'm going to introduce, I was talking to a brother and I was explaining to him that it was easier to be a bad boy than to be a good boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that he had a great talking game, but when it came to changing up his behavior, he didn't do it. If we go to slide number 4, it shows the man facing a brick wall in the middle of a green field, clear skies, and it's a brick wall. When you face these walls, take the power back, meaning you have to understand that there's something I'm going to show you what to take the power back from. Jill, you introduced us the last time we talked, and I said, man, I forgot I used to use that terminology, taking the power back from something, taking the power back from fear, taking the power back from anxiety, taking the power back from depression, taking the power back from irritation. And so on this one right here, if I look, the reason I grabbed this picture is because sometimes we feel we're in the middle of moving forward, and then all of a sudden there's an obstacle placed in our way. There is a verbal obstacle placed in our way. There is someone who does not have the same type of faith that we have, and they're placed in our space. And we have to make a decision. How are we going to respond to this resistance, to this opposition? But because we're going to have to take the power back. If you go down to, if we go down to the next one, slide number 6. Slide number 6, a negative is yellow. A negative energy field that repels and shoves me away with the intention to distract or prevent my forward progress. So when I reached that space, when I was getting ready to do one of my productions, right before all this COVID jumped off, I had to recognize that there was an energy that seems like it was pushing me away from what it is I had set out to do, and was trying to distract me and keep me and prevent me from doing my forward progress.
And let me tell you that negative energy field. Think of it this way. That negative energy field is doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Remember I told you all on Sunday that when it comes to gravity, for every action, there is an equal reaction. So for every time you press, there's something that's going to press right here. But breakthrough comes when you become strong. Breakthrough comes when your positive becomes stronger than the negative. That's when breakthrough happens. Well, you know what happens for so long? That we keep trying to change the negative. The negative is going to be here. That's its job. You know, meaning that works when it's in the right space. For instance, if the reaction is this table not allowing this computer to fall to the ground, that's a positive right now. But if the goal was to break through, then this negative will feel like a negative of resistance. But it's not.
Right.
It's not. It is doing what it's supposed to do. It's holding its weight. It's doing what it's supposed to do. If you want something different, then you got to go and sit and say, how do I get past this glass right here? I mean, you can always go under it. You can go over it. There's things you can do. But you know, when I get to the point, and this is how, listen, Paul would say this to somebody in one of these letters. He said, turn this person over to Satan, to adversary, so he can be taught not to blaspheme. That was on one. Another one, he said, hand this person over to Satan so that his flesh can be dealt with, so his spirit can be saved. See, this is, to me, this is Paul saying, let me show you the positive side of that negative thing. Let me show you how this consequence is going to work. This consequence has the potential to make you better, to rehabilitate, to cause you to make another decision, to cause you to value your life more. That's what mine did. Or you keep talking about that enemy like that enemy is doing something to you. No. That adversary is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. You change. I change.
In order to achieve my destiny, opposition or the adversary must join with resistance to stop me. Both of these things must come together to be able to stop me from moving forward. Identify the I had to learn to identify the hardwired voice of the critic within that was distracting me from seeing that it's my own. It's my own voice. It's the voices that I'm hearing within myself. It's my own. And I must own these voices, meaning I must identify that this has been hardwired. And when I put hardwired, this came at the season when I began to realize that our minds were hardwired. And in our minds being hardwired based upon growing up, doing the same things over and over again, we end up not challenging the thought process. We end up not challenging the different brain waves that have been created inside of our own spirits. And so it was distracting me from seeing that I must own this. When I say I must own, it's imperative that I identify my own critic within. I identify that voice that I use to motivate me to get up. Go ahead.
Listen to this, Sharon. If somebody says something about you that you don't believe is true, it's not going to stop you. When somebody says something, oftentimes when it really gets to you, it's because you believe a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
See, I said this on Sunday, Deron, you just said identify the hardwired voice, the critic in me. Remember, it is a critic in you, but that wasn't a critic at first. It was a voice of truth. It was love. You and we kept saying no because of fear to confront, fear of change, fear of the outcome that we imagined. And now it's a voice of a critic. And it sounds like this: you should have, you should be able to, you should. When at first it was new, it was you can. Let me show you. You can. Let's try this. Don't worry. That's where it started. But then we create these events in our life.
Because we can't handle the emotional disappointments of not being able to move forward when we wanted to. Keep going.
Absolutely. Then we create these events in our life to help us stuff something in that empty space. In that space that wasn't filled with hope and confidence and belief. Not in ourselves on that moment, but belief in the spirit of truth, in the spirit of God that brought us out of something when we were immature. And instead of seeing that, you know what, I may not have tackled this right here before, but guess what? I've been in a place before where I didn't know what was going on. And I gave it a shot and I opened myself up to it and I trusted the process. And I grew up into this thing, and now guess what it is? It is one of my good habits. It is one of my, beneficial beliefs. Right. It is one of my benefiting beliefs now. Where first it was one of my limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. And so that is that voice that's there. You know, all of it belongs. All of it belongs to some place here. But what do I know? What do I know? That voice didn't start off as a voice of a critic. It did, and it's not always the voice of what am I trying to say? Let me use the biblical sense with Jesus and Peter. That was the voice of fear. It was Peter's fear coming into his space, telling him to do something other than what he was on mission to do.
I got something very deep to say. when I worked in the government office buildings and the different offices. I worked in the Department of Energy, Department of Justice, you name them, I worked in those places. And I was a skinny, overweight man, where food was my fall, my stumbling block. And I would begin to say, oh, the devil is busy today because they're doing another fellowship, or they're doing another. Somebody brought sandwiches and they're trying to sabotage me. Or if you had gone out to get something, I would feel like, oh, you're not with me, Jill. You're doing your own thing. Because, and slide number 9, self-generated stoppage equals self-generated procrastination. Self-generated stoppage equals self-generated procrastination. And what do I mean by that? If you're not careful, you will find yourself stopped. You won't have this one. You will find yourself stopped, and you're trying to figure out how come I'm not moving, but you're not looking at, I am playing a role in my stoppage. I'm playing a role in my non-moving forward. I'm rehearsing thoughts. You said something to me the other day, or maybe you said it when you were teaching. The lion says.
Oh, the sluggard said this. When you sit a sluggard, I was sluggard says there's a lion in the road.
There's a lion in the road.
Right, and which on one side is an obstacle, but I'm going to say this procrastination that is associated with fear. So they began to see, if I do this, then I'm going to get, this is going to happen, that is going to happen, all these bad things are going to happen.
Right. And as an artist, because I began to realize years ago, when they reproduce all these special effects and trying to show spirituality of things and all of that, they're trying to tap into what already exists. And the warrior is an artist. I never looked at it like that before, Jill. The warrior is an artist, and an artist is a warrior. And so when you are an artist, you are a warrior. And warriors and artists live by a code. And that code is, this is the day I slay the demons of my forward progress. It's up there right now. This is the day that I slay the demons of my forward progress. Because if you bring it back here, when you're trying to write a book, when you're trying to do a project, when you're trying to create something, when you're trying to bring something into existence that was in the invisible realm, you're going to end up experiencing opposition and resistance. But you have to make the decision today. And I learned this from Spike Lee. He said, without fail, he would get up at a certain time in the morning and sit down behind his paper for an hour. And if nothing came out, then it was okay. And I've heard several artists that I respect that they made themselves sit down and bring out what was on inside of them, because an artist is a warrior and a warrior is an artist. We live by a code. This is the day I slay the demons of my forward progress. I will not look at the end of this day and say, wow, and I still did not achieve some of the things that I wanted to be able to achieve, that I knew that was on my purpose.
You know, I can say this to you, and I said this on Sunday, that, you know, sometimes when we're trying to slay our demons of our forward progress, you know, we don't understand that the moment, this is how the Bible said about Daniel, that I like. When the angel came to Daniel, because it was time for Daniel to get an answer to his prayer, he said, on the day that you prayed this, the day that you saw understanding, the day that you decided you were going to put your mind and heart to understand it, on that day, you put this ball in motion. Mm-hmm. Now, 21 days later, it was held up. It was held up. So I want you to see, sometimes a day can be more than one day that we think about, but let's look at it this way. So here's Daniel. Daniel prayed. He did all of that, and he gone about his business. He has no idea that on that day, when he said, I'm cooperating, I seek to understand what's going on. See, that's the day when he decided, no matter what you tell me, whether it's good news to my feelings or bad news to my feelings, I want to know the truth. I want to confront this reality as it is, and not with wishful thinking. So the Spirit said, on that day, something began to move on your behalf. Moving on your behalf. And I say that to you because there are some you can make a decision right now. Where we fail is that we think this is like microwave popcorn. I'm gonna get the popcorn, it's gonna be a flat bag, I'm gonna put it in a microwave for 2 hours, and then 2 minutes, and then the bag's gonna swell up and I'm gonna be able to eat the popcorn. And that's all gonna happen within a 5-minute period of time. That's why faith and trust is so important. Because that in expectation and hope and anticipation instead of anxiety. And because of the way this thing works, and because the way life works, in order for you to grow, there's going to have to be a waiting period. WAITING, that kind of way. There's going to be a period where you have to wait. That's the only way you're going to trust. If you got things right away, which we know there's a generation out there that thinks you can just get things right away because that's how life has been presented to them. And then when things don't happen right away, like little kids, when they can't have it right away, their tantrums and those, tantrums from teenagers look like tearing up sometimes. So what am I saying to you? Absolutely, you go that route. But know this, the change happens when you decide in your heart and in your mind, I am no longer resisting this. Then the manifestation doesn't happen right away. The same way when you plant a seed. You don't see the fruit right away. You don't see the growth right away, but you know what you planted, and you don't doubt that you planted it, and then you trust. And that is the space. And then you trust. You trust all that you already know and learned.
So and good stuff. We go back up to slide number 11, the code. This is the day I slay my demons of forward progress. It's kill or be killed. I got here by studying what was the killer instinct? Why some people have the killer instinct and others don't? Well, you either have to kill whatever it is that has the power, put to death whatever has the power over you, or that habit or that emotional trigger, or it is your dream or your vision will be killed. And so when I go to slide number 12, remember we went through Kubler-Ross's Kubler-Ross grief cycle. And I put in between each one of these things that you went through. It started off with denial, and then it went over to anger, and then it dipped down to depression, and then it started going back up towards bargaining. And before you know it, it ended at acceptance. And I've been explaining, you can bring it back here. Acceptance is the higher consciousness. Acceptance is when you get to the point where you are accepting this world as it is, not as you want it to be, and you are ready to flow in love. And the walls we experience are often the dark nights of the soul while on our journey. What you do at this time determines your mental state. And so if you're going through depression, if you're going through anger, if you're going through denial, and I'm just hitting the major ones, if you're going through bargaining, if you're going through avoidance, if you're going through frustration, if you're going through anxiety, you must understand these are all dark nights of the soul, and these dark tunnels must be traveled. You must go through them, and you must face it, because you have to understand it is either I put this mental state of mind to death, and I kill that mental mind and put into practice a mind of faith. a mind of trust, a mind of possibility, then my dreams, what it is that I'm thinking about doing, my forward progress is going to be stopped. And this determines what mental state that you're going to be in. The dark night of the soul is synonymous with traveling the narrow way. If we remember in the scriptures, Jesus spoke, and he said in Matthew 7:13, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and spacious and broad is the way that leads to. And so this scripture was trying to say that if you're going to make it, you got to take the narrow way. You got to take the way that most people won't take, because to go through narrowly, you got to go through sideways sometimes. Before attaining union with God, the soul must pass through a personal experience with the passion of your Creator. This time of testing and agony is accompanied by confusion, fear, uncertainty, including doubts of God. It is not pleasant, but to the end, it allows one to approach nearer to God and his love. And so I'm challenging you, bring it back here, that you may be feeling something emotionally. Church, listen to me. You may be saying, I don't understand what's going on. At one point, I think I know my child is getting on my nerves, my boss. I don't understand what's happening with my funds. I'm not sure what to do. And as soon as I get one thing done, something else is happening. You've got to make a decision that I'm going to make it through each one of these doors, each one of these doorways, each one of these trials, and I'm going to make it through, and I'm going to win. Why? Because just because I'm in uncertainty doesn't mean I'm not going to not have doubts. And I have to make doubts become my friend. And when I say doubts, my friend, to say, doubt, you can say whatever you want to say, but I'm going to believe God. I'm going to believe that he's going to take me through.
You know what doubt is doing? Listen, everything is all good. When I feel that I'm doubting, I thank God for the revelation. Why? Because if doubt came my way and could not find anything in me, it wouldn't stop and have a conversation. It's having a conversation. It is a tool in God's hand. Mm-hmm. To help me to know what's unknown to me.
That's it.
Otherwise, I'm out there swimming in the lake and don't know how to swim. I think I know how to swim because everybody that told me all my life, you're a good swimmer. You're a great swimmer. You're an excellent swimmer. And some people right now believe they are all of those things because of what people said from the outside in. But this is how you said it. You said it in this thing. You said, before attaining union with God, the soul must pass through a personal experience. Mm-hmm. You got to have a personal experience. That's what that moment will have. Otherwise, if you don't have that personal experience yourself with the Spirit of truth, with the Creator of the world, guess what happens? You don't let everybody tell you that you can swim. Mm-hmm. You let everybody tell you that, and guess what? It felt good. It went into your consciousness. You now believe that without ever having an experience. But there's nothing like jumping in the water, somebody jumping in the water who have had experience of swimming versus somebody jumping in the water who just everybody told them they were so great. Somebody's gonna be gliding and somebody's gonna be splashing. Why? So guess what? This is what happens. Anytime something comes and finds a space in you, that is the Spirit of truth trying to close up that gap. Why? So that when a strong wind comes, your foundation is stable. That you know yourself enough that when somebody doesn't treat you the way you deserve to be treated, mm-hmm. When someone doesn't understand why you do what you do, when someone is, have some comments simply because they don't have to know you the way you know yourself. But you got to know yourself. And all those things that visit you is an opportunity for you to have a conversation with your truth. Jill, this is how Jesus said it in John. He said, Satan has nothing on me because he couldn't find anything in me. Listen, if you got something in you, you want to know it before you get out there and be unprepared and get yourself tore up. get yourself way off course.
Are you reading these things before I get to them?
I don't even know what you have on your thing, so go ahead.
The pain you are going through is not what will determine your future. Your future will be determined by who you are as you go through your pain. Mm-hmm. So your future, my future, is determined by who I choose to be as I go through this. Your human self might be in hell right now. Your divine self is literally untouched by your suffering. I wrote this when I could not believe certain things I was experiencing. I felt all over the place, but I had to speak in God's word and speak in his way, and that is, there's a dark cloud that is over, and the pressure and the energy of the dark cloud, if you check in, you will see the other side of the glory and serenity. I had to make a decision, my friends, that I was no longer going to be afraid of that darkness, that dark cloud. They call it the dark cloud of depression or whatever it was. The pressure of the energy of the dark cloud, if you check in, you will see on the other side the glory and serenity. The makeup of the dark cloud, and let me just give this to you. I never got to share this with anybody. The dark night facilitated by the dark clouds is a part of the process. Well, I shared it with you. Is a part of the process and will become one of the greatest parts of your journey in your life. I've learned to call it the revealed. Why? Because their eyes were wide shut, and now eyes are wide open to the things of the Spirit. And so you must understand that sometimes we enter, and you can bring it back here, into dark seasons. And when we enter into dark seasons, we can't make sense, heads or tail, left or right. Where am I going? We lose our balance. Centrifugal force takes over. All this stuff happens, but we have to keep our wits about us and know that, listen, if I check in with the Spirit, this is going to reveal what I need to strengthen within myself so I can be a better person.
What's your superpower? What's your superpower? You know what your superpower is? To bring light in the darkness. That's your superpower. Your superpower is to not allow yourself to be overcome by that darkness, but to overcome with your light. That's why every obstacle being thrown against you is the hope that you would turn your light down. Turn your light down so that when you finally got into the place where your superpower was most needed, you couldn't be effective. Because every time somebody said something, did something, you took it personally, they injured you, you got hit, then you, instead of making your request known to God, it's about how you rather, God, could you help me heal? Help me get past this. This is not praising you. This is not glorifying you. Sitting here, not getting up, quitting right here. This is not glorifying you. Help me get through this. That's one prayer. Tracy hurt me. Janice hurt me. And right now, God don't like ugly. And you know what? If they got hit by a bus, then they would know. You know what you really saying, God, I want them to get hit by a bus. That's what you really want. Which one do you want? Do you want to be healed, or do you want somebody to be punished? Because you can use this breath, this life, that every word I speak is a prayer. Every word I speak is a prayer. That's why we have to watch what we say. Every word we use this Spirit of God in us to say has power. So guess what? You can either use that power to get yourself up, or use that power to keep trying to pray against someone who's gone about their business and you still stuck.
Go to slide number 18. Slide number 18, and it says peace, shalom. It's a peace sign and a shalom sign. When I began to learn this, Jill, and see that assalamu alaikum as many times that I had gone, heard Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam and all these different things, I did not understand the seriousness of Salam Alaikum. And that when you study languages, they have the same thing, same meaning, shalom, the peace of God. And it's peace. And when you fix with, if we don't rearrange the situation and we don't avoid the problem, we face our dark tunnel, and the conversations in our head will begin to end because we are taking back the power. And
can you read that again? Whatever you just read before you said in our head.
When we don't fix the leaky relationships, we don't rearrange the situations, we don't avoid the problems we face in the dark conversations head on, then what happens is that those conversations take me off course.
Okay.
So, assalamu alaikum, if we go to slide number 19, it means peace comes when we destroy the authority that establishes the chaos. And so peace, my peace of mind, the peace of my family, the peace shows up when I actively destroy, meaning I destroy the authority. I have to destroy the authority that has established the chaos in my life. And that means I have to take the time to meditate and say, what authority is causing me to have an unsettled peace right now? What person in my life has an authority where them being upset or just so bothered by something that seems irrelevant to me, but they are bothered. I've got to destroy that authority that establishes the chaos in my life. Go ahead.
Listen, and I want you to hear this. The authority is not a person.
Yes.
Okay? No, because it's easy to focus on a person.
Right.
If a person saying something to you, this is your problem. Is you have a rejection complex. Right. You have an abandonment complex. You are not accepting life as it is. See, it's going to always eventually be under control. What other people are doing is they're showing you where there is this harmony in you. They're showing you where what part of you is not in cooperation with God, or what part of you that has not embraced God. I think we read in John chapter 1 when it talked about the spirit of Christ and the word coming in flesh, and it said, whoever would accept him and welcome. See, sometimes we'll be okay with something, but our body language, there's something that's still resisting, and all of those things have to be exposed to the light so that you can address them. And so, what is the authority that is causing the chaos in my life at some point? Caring about what people's categorizing me, or what they're saying, what they think they see, and then me internalizing what they say beyond what I can do. Listen, people know in part and they prophesy in part. Sometimes people tell you something, and it's meant for them to say something and for you to stop and check in and examine yourself to see if you're in the faith. But I listen, let's all move and walk and emulate and imitate the Spirit of God. And what is that? What's his faith? Moses said, who should I say sent me? He said, I am. Nothing else. Just I am. Not I am a warrior. Not I am a prayer warrior. Not I am, because you're more than all of that. You're more than all of that. And when you present yourself in such a limited way to other human beings, before you know it, you can't be nothing more than that. I remember someone said to me when I shared something that I didn't know would hurt her feelings, and she said, Jesus wouldn't have broken reed. Jesus was gentle. I said, he also turned those tables. See, this is what people do. Do you want to cherry pick? You want to take one part? No, you're supposed to be whatever you're supposed to be, whatever is required in that moment. And in some moments, it's not time to whisper. In some moments, it's not time to sing for somebody else. If somebody's life is in danger, you got to come right there out of it. It's not time for all of that fluff. And people may not get that, but if you're in your heart, you do. So why am I saying all that? How do I destroy this chaos or this authority? All that you say is, what kind of power am I giving to that? And what kind of lack of harmony is it exposing in me? This is right now. Your child may be exposing to you that you fear that you got some fear. So you think they're just cutting up. They're being teenagers or kids, but what they're showing you is you are terrified for their future. When we talk about procrastination on Sunday, what were we talking about procrastination being? Not just not doing something every now and then, but chronic avoidance. So some of these things you get angry every now and then. Who doesn't? You don't do what you say you want to do every now and then. Who doesn't? We all do that. But now it's chronic depression. It's chronic anger. I think that's what you said earlier. It's chronic avoidance. It's chronic now. Like chronic pain, it's constant.
Chronic resentment, chronic bitterness, chronic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it's not that you'll get rid of all of it, because it's only chaotic because it's too big and it's too strong in your life. And it has taken up too much space in this beautiful mind of yours. But until we love ourselves enough, and I had a quote that I got from MASH that I wrote down today because I like the show. And this is what he said. Let's see. There was a guy on this particular episode, and MASH is a story about war, being at war. And I mean, a TV show from way back in the day. And this particular episode was a guy who was a looker, and then while he was serving, a bomb went off and it damaged his face, and he didn't want to live. And he said he didn't want to live, and he was trying to do everything not to live, just going to the edge but not going over the edge. But he just had that attitude, and finally the Colonel Potter came to him and said, "You're only 20-something years old. I know you have this scar. I know this happened to you, but you really do have a lot to live for. You're so much more than this." And so the guy still kept trying to do it, and finally called Colonel Potter and said, "You know what? Since you want to do it, I don't want you to fail at it. I'm going to help you do it." So he went and he put gas on the guys and turned it up and, scared the guy. And then the guy said, "Wait a minute, you trying to kill me? You crazy. And so he began to fight for his life.
That's positive. All right, now you're fighting for your life.
So he said, "That's good. Now you're fighting for your life." But this is what he said to me. He said, "The part of you that wants to stick around is stronger than a part of you that wants to end it all." Like that. Then as long as the part of you that wants to stick around, the part of you that wants to get up, the part of you that doesn't want this anymore is greater than a part of you that want to end it all, because both of those voices are there. You have a chance. That's why when you end up in Philippians 4, it starts telling you about this hardwiring that you had. Rewire your brain. Think on these things. Think on things that are noble. You know what it's doing? It's preparing the part of you. It's strengthening the part of you that wants to stay around. So that at some point, either you got to drag the part of you that wanted to end it all around for a little while. Again, it'll be in the car, but it will not be in the driver's seat. That's all you have to do right now. Don't let fear make decisions for you.
And don't let texts that don't say what they don't say something to you.
They don't have a tone. Don't give it a tone.
Don't give it a tone, because you are still facing some stuff within yourself.
There you go. So what are we saying to you today? Listen, worry and anxiety in 2020 is not greater than who you will be if you take your eye get off of that wide road of everything that could possibly happen, and you put yourself in that narrow road where there is some tribulation, where it is a little tight, but you get no different than a baby being born. The baby had to come through a real tight space to get here. But guess what, baby? You're born now and you have done a whole bunch of things. And it was worth coming out and living. It was worth getting to the other side from that inside that protective wound. It was worth it. It was worth it. And guess what? It'll be worth it to you.
And I had to choose not to resist the reality of this time and look at, all right, Deron, this is what you used to do, but this is what you must do now. And these are the choices that you have to make. I am confident in you, church, anyone who's watching. I'm confident that you can take a thought captive. Mm-hmm. You do not have to be, and that's what I wanted to ask. Joanne, do you all have that video link that had the puppy dog on it? Can you play that right now? I want you to see this.
Girl, good girl, good bestie. You're a good girl, good bestie. Hey, yeah.
All right, you can stop it right there. Let's go to slide number 22, worry 3. Slide number 22, worry 3. There you go. Anxiety is stewing without doing. When I worry, I'm allowing my head to be shaken in a dog's mouth. Surely he shall not be moved forever. The righteous shall be everlasting remembrance. He shall not be afraid of evil tidings, and his heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. This is Psalms 112, 6 through 7. Whenever I worry, I feel a sense of helplessness. And when my mind is paralyzed, I become incapable of rational thought. From this day forward, I prioritize my taking my thoughts captive. I wanted to play that video because I want you to understand that when you find yourself being taken off into some, and that was a puppy that was grabbing a stuffed animal.
Right. No jealousy happening. You see that?
Right. And so you have to make the decision. I'm not going to allow my head to be controlled. I'm not going to allow my thoughts to be controlled, but I'm going to take it captive. That's all I got to say for this evening. Church, I pray that you are able to show up in every aspect of your life and that you don't give in to depression and doubting, and you don't give in to anxiety, but you understand that this is one of your finest hours. This is our finest hour, because just like the people during the days of the Great Depression, it wasn't just a saying on the money. They said, in God we trust. And this is the season where we are all having to choose. In God we trust. I'm Deron Cloud, and that's my wife. You go ahead. She got to do something.
With you. You know, that used to be our old something spirit exit.
Right.
Ooh, I got to rewrite your brain. Because you love going to that. I'm Deron, I'm Jill. So anyway, that's just a habit. But anyway, I thought it was funny. I'm sorry, you're not laughing.
I'm not laughing at you.
I thought it was funny.
I'm trying to stay focused.
Okay, please. Thank you. So listen, we're going to move to the next part of our search, but I want you to hear this last piece. It says, surely he shall not be moved forever. The righteous shall be in everlasting remembrance. Righteous, what makes you righteous is that you are as you should be. That's why you're righteous. Not what people think you should be, but as you should be in the eyes of the Creator. That is our goal from the day that we say we want to change lives inside out. We want that we were called to be those kind of instruments, that you should someday be as you should be. And when you are as you should be, I'm telling you, we're all going to just flow, and we're going to move in the direction towards the truth. I believe it's coming. I believe you want it. I believe you're thirsting for it. And I believe that if you ask, you seek, and you knock, Then on the other side of that is finding and doors opening. And I pray that you are right where you're supposed to be. So when that door opens, you can recognize that God was with you all along, that the trial was just a moment in your life, and that was always going to end. So listen,